us on this Wednesday afternoon. Yours truly, Kristen Russo, broadcasting at SiriusXM 82 here on Mad Dog Unleashed as we chat to you about what's going on as far as the world of sports is concerned. Eddie Erickson's in the house today, and Colin Schmeling, of course, we found him bouncing around out there in Plainview with those two little kids of his as we chat in 888 Mad Dog 6 and talk as far as the world of sports is concerned. Good show today, including Coach K a little later on. We're going to do something on the hockey, we think, a little bit later on. Jay Wright of Villanova a little bit later on as we get you going here on a midweek program and see if we can get you home here as far as the world of sports goes. Let me do a couple quickies here to get us started. Number one, I had Eddie come up today partly because my right arm has been, it's been bothering me for a long time. Fortunately, I can play golf and I can hit a tennis ball without being in too much pain, but my right arm it's almost like it's a dead pain. It's like a tendonitis thing. Hits me at a weird time, middle of the night. I can't, it wakes me up, that kind of scenario. And I've been trying to, and I don't like going to doctors who does, not because I don't like the doctors so much, it's because I just hate the process of going. And I tell you right now, this is the last time because Eddie came up here today. The doctor told me last week, the assistant said, listen, sir, you can do one of two things. Here's your appointment, 1:15. You can fill out the form online. You know me with that. Awful. I don't even have a computer. Or you can get here about 45 minutes early, and you can fill it out here before you have your appointment. I says, what? 45 minutes? What am I giving you my life? Writing a book? 45 minutes. So I said to myself, okay, got him off the phone. I'm sort of in between this doctor's appointment next Monday. It's going to be at 1:15 after TV, before radio, so I got to hustle the whole bit. So I had Eddie up, and Eddie's sort of my go-to guy. I can't have my wife do it because she does all the nonsense for me, and she's getting annoyed. So Eddie can't say anything because he works for, essentially me. So as a result, Eddie's got to do what I tell him. And Eddie gets a nice stipend on a year-to-year basis. So Eddie, reluctantly, but with a smile on his face, gets the job done. Somebody's got to pay for his new cars and his trips to Orlando and all that nonsense. So he does it. But I gave it to him today at 1:45, and I swear to God, he wasn't done at the 20 minutes to 3. I mean, they wanted everything on this little form. They wanted, forget the normal stuff, emergency contact and, license and, who's your health provider, who referred us to you, who referred us to you, and who's your primary physician, all that. Okay. They wanted page after page after page. I said to myself Eddie, if you can't get this done by 3 o'clock, the hell with it, I won't go. I'll live with it. I'll live with a bad arm, and I'll figure out a way to finagle the pain. I'll throw some Advil down my throat. And before I play a sporting event and hope on the 18th hole with Divine, when we're about to blow another tournament, I can hit a drive and my arm doesn't fall off. Or if I'm serving at 5-6 in the third set in another loss at the field club this summer, my partner, I can get the ball over the net with my serve because my arm is not hurting me that much. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. For crying out loud, what are you supposed to do? Here's my numbers. I'm allergic to penicillin, all right? Jeez, let's go. Get me in, get me out. Do what you got to do. Tell me what it is. Give me a little whatever you have to do. You got to do a quick MRI. I'm fine with it. You have something you could do, tendonitis. I don't need to go to physical therapy because I do that anyway. But give me a little update, please. That's all I want. It's been bothering me for 6 months. And I'm telling you, they make you fill out 30 pages. And it's no wonder people can't. Can you imagine somebody who's 80 years old doing this? I have Eddie to do it. And I pay Eddie to do it. Can you imagine somebody who's 80 who's got to sit there and, has to go to a doctor for something, a urinary tract infection, and he takes him 4 hours to fill out the forms? I mean, and he misses the soap operas? I mean, it really is. It's absolutely. And then they wonder why and then, of course, the health provider, whether, my health insurance, they never pay for it. I'll get I could be, here it is, a couple years ago, I had the appendectomy, almost died. You remember that? The appendicitis when I worked. Did you know that I had to spend weeks to convince my health insurance that, I wasn't going to come home. I had to stay overnight in the hospital. I had the damn thing done at 11 o'clock at night. What do they want to do, walk home at 1 a.m.? Yeah, I just had surgery. Thank God my appendix didn't burst. And walk home with an IV. I mean, that's what they don't want to pay. These insurance companies, they're absurd. They don't want to pay. They want you to pay them forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. But then when it comes for them to pay you, well, you know what? I want to know what happened here. Is this? And they tie you up in red tape for months and months and months and months and months. I had this issue recently with a colonoscopy. Oh, it's a racket. It's an absolute freaking racket. Gee whiz. And I tell you, I had Eddie's for weeks going out here. He spent 40 minutes filling out page after page after page. It's an arm issue. It won't take that long. Please, let me see the guy. Let him take a look at it, figure out what it might be. It's not a torn labrum. I'm not going to need major surgery, and we can get out of there. Oh, my gosh. That's number one. Number two today, this NHL thing, this is a sports-related thing. I'll get to a couple of other issues a little later on. The women's equality stuff with sports I want to get into. I want to get into a couple. I'll be careful there, as I know that's dangerous. But I will get into a couple other things a little bit later on. Let me spend a second or two on the NHL, who now has banned referee Tim Peel. He, of course, was due to retire anyway at the end of the year. And I guess they don't like him, and I guess he sort of gets mocked for a lot of his lousy calls. And the NHL's had issues with him, too, because he had a drink one day with a reporter following a game at a hotel bar somewhere. I don't know if that was just a happenstance or if that was planned. Who knows? Bottom line is, he's been in the NHL's crosshairs forever. I don't know why they haven't fired him a long time ago. Now, all of a sudden, they want to get him out. Maybe they were looking for a reason. If they didn't like him 2 or 3 years ago for a certain cause in certain spots, this guy has refereed 90 playoff games. They should have gotten rid of him. Anyway, they got rid of him here last night because during the Nashville-Detroit game, he was caught on. I remember, if you say anything now, if you're an official, if you're an athlete, whatever, a coach, I mean, you're dead. Anything that you do now, Twitter, anything, there's microphones all over the place. You might as well just go mum. And I guess last night, now listen, I'm not trying to sit there and I'm not defending the conversation, but I need to get this out there for you. I guess last night he called the penalty on Victor Arvidsson. He's a long time. I think he's a defenseman, is he not? I'll have Colin, but I know Nashville's team a little bit because we've seen him in the playoffs. Anyway, he tripped John Merrill of the Red Wings on Tuesday, and then when he went, I don't know where he said this, whether it was at the penalty box where he was explaining what the penalty was, or to his other official. And here's his quote: "It wasn't much, but I wanted to get a blanket penalty against Nashville early in the," and then it's bleeded out, which I would think mean period. And that, of course, obviously ticked off everybody in NHL and ticked off Nashville. And they didn't score Detroit, and Nashville ended up winning the game 2-0. But for whatever the reason, the NHL went nuts on this, and they have suspended him essentially for life and banned him from any NHL games. Now, listen, you got to be careful. I'm not trying to defend a call. I hate the language. It wasn't much, but I called it. I don't like that. But the idea and the explanation from the NHL, and we're trying to get Coley Campbell on, is that every shift and every period and every section of the game has to be refereed accordingly with no past thoughts is a bunch of nonsense. And the idea that any sport is trying to convince you that every particular play is evaluated independently of what is preceded in that game is a bunch of freaking nonsense. That is not the case. All right? NBA officials all the time and college officials all the time have makeup calls. When they know they blew one on the one end, they make sure, quietly on the other end, they figure something out, and they give the team that got the bad call earlier get a good call down the road. That's just human nature. When an NHL official in a postseason game or knows that he made a bad call, he's going to even it up a little bit down the road, and he's going to give the other team a power play when he knows maybe they were unjustly penalized on a previous scenario earlier in the game. They're going to do a makeup call. That is good officiating. Okay, that is what you have to do. You have to get a feel of the game that you're doing. And if there's no calls that need to be made, then fine, no calls need to be made. But if you make a glaring error and you give a team an advantage and they take advantage of it and you gave them a penalty that they really didn't deserve, it was borderline, you know damn well that the next scenario, the next chance that official has to give a little makeup, okay, you got 2 minutes, took advantage, and I probably shouldn't have made that call. I got to make the next call now. It's human nature. And the same thing with the NBA, same thing with every sport. That's what officials do. And I talk to the officials all the time in sports. That's what they do. A little difficult to do in baseball because a lot of it's on replay. So if you get the call wrong at first, second, or third base, you can just go to replay. The balls and strikes scenario, I do think there's the great hitter, gets the benefit of the doubt. If he's going up against a great pitcher, that's going to sort of seesaw in the course of the game. But the idea that there are not sort of make-up calls in the course of a sport, specifically in this case, the NHL and the NBA, and if the NHL is trying to convince us that every game has got to be arbitrated fairly, equally, every play of every game, that is a bunch of garbage. And if they want to convince you of that and try to tell you that's the case, I'll give you a billion examples, and I'll give it to you this year when we watch the postseason. I'll give you a billion examples where they do not pay attention to it. They make calls in the first period that they do not make in the third period. They make calls early in the third period postseason that they don't dare make in overtime. I mean, that's why overtime sometimes go 5-6 periods, because they never make a call and nobody's got a power play. So there is many example of their official. Look at all the grief that the officials took in that San Jose game a couple years ago against Vegas in the postseason. And, of course, San Jose got a big break, came back and won that series. I mean, those officials got killed for that. And the next time they did a San Jose Vegas game in the postseason, I'm sure they said, you know what, geez, we buried Vegas last time. We're not doing that again. But the idea that somehow Tim Peel did something that not every official does, that did something that is so outlandish that no other official does in the NHL is a bunch of garbage. And if anybody in there in the NHL tells you differently, they're just telling you that because they want to make you feel and trying to convince you that, you're wrong, Chris. No, I'm not wrong. I watch the games. No, I'm not wrong. I can give you many examples in a third period of tight games with 5 minutes to go. You can kill a guy and they never make a call. I can also give you plenty of examples where a team falls behind on a dubious call, and I guarantee it, the next questionable call is going to go in favor of the team that got burned the first time. There is no questions about it. And I'm not trying to defend Tim Peel. All right, I wouldn't know Tim Peel if I fell on him. I am not trying to defend him. All right, if he deserves, and the idea now that we're going to sit there and say, who cares? He was a ref that stunk anyway and was on his way to retirement. Well, if that's the case, then why is he officiating any games now? If he was being put out to pasture and he was a bad referee, as everybody is now indicating, I guess the social media crew, even Colin just told me he was an NHL guy, telling me, well, you know what, he's a bad ref, so who cares? Well, if he's a bad ref, then why did he do 90 games? This guy's been refereeing forever. Why the hell did he do 90 games? I mean, this is a guy, if he's so lousy, then why, and he's had a terrible year. He's been refereeing for about 30 years. Let me give you the amount of games. He has refereed 1,300 regular season games and 90 in the postseason. Now, hold on now. This is a guy that the NHL knows stinks, but they've allowed to hang around for 1,300 career, 1,300 games. You figure an NHL official does what? 40, 50 games a year? I mean, that's tons. That's forever. That's 20 years. 90 playoff games. You figure that the NHL official does what? 8 to 10 playoff games a year? I mean, that's 10 years of playoff hockey. Now the NFL, the officials of the league wants to get rid of them? They didn't want to wait to the end of the year? Oh, come on, please, stop, please. That's not fair. And I agree. Listen, I don't like the hot mic. The blanking penalty. I got to even it up, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't much, but, I mean, let's be fair. Come on, folks. Have a clue. I know everybody is so careful now. They want everything to be on the up and up. Yeah, but, I mean, think about it from a human nature standpoint. If you are an official in the NBA or a referee or whatever the case in an NHL game or in an NCAA tournament or even behind home plate, and maybe you screwed the big hitter one at bat and then he gets up in the fifth inning, you're going to give him a break the second at bat. Okay? If you've squeezed the pitcher in a matchup with a certain hitter in the first inning and the same matchup occurs in the fourth and you're the home plate umpire, you're telling me that human nature is not going to tell you, you know what, I burned him the first time. I was tough on him. Let me give him a little benefit of the doubt the second time. Of course. That's what good officiating's about. Jeez. My gosh, you're telling me in the NFL they don't do the same thing? An NFL official who's called 9 million holds, he doesn't figure out a way to call a couple penalties on the defense after the offense has been caught for all these holds? They come up with a head slap out of nowhere? You can call a penalty any play in the NFL. Of course. My gosh. But now Tim Peel's the poster boy of what not to do. And here it is, the NHL, you can kill people in the third period of a playoff game. There's no calls. Kill people. That in the doctor's office today. My goodness. Now, I am going to go for this arm because Eddie did all the work. But can you imagine if my wife, I drive crazy anyway, honey, can you fill this out? Can you do this? I need to look this up on a computer. Can you fill out my form here? I mean, and I drive her nuts. So she didn't even know about this one. So I said, you know what? Eddie's, what the hell? He didn't do much. I'll have, Bill did the podcast. Schmeling does everything else. Eddie just kind of walks up, makes sure the commercials get done properly. Trying to find Richard Rosen, who wrote this Sid Luckman book. So I figured maybe, and he can't. I figured I have Eddie do the work. I thought maybe 10 minutes. I mean, the kid was sitting there for 40 minutes. And then at the end of the day, when let's say I need, basically surgery to protect my arm, the health insurance will make me go through basically hula hoops to get my money back. Yet I've been paying them forever and ever and ever. Because when it comes to them paying you, they want nothing to do with you. They want to take and never give back. Every single one of them. In all walks of life, those insurance companies are a bunch of frauds. I have to admit it. When they need you, they give you all the sweet ads, and I'll tell you how great they are. But when it comes to asking for a claim, oh no. 18 after the hour, you know what I'm talking about. 18 after the hour, we take a timeout. We continue. Mad Dog Unleashed.